Let's get going because we don't have Friday. I've got to kind of get through 5 days worth of stuff in 4 days. Yeah, I mean Flex Fridays are good and bad, but whatever. For us, it means we have to get through everything faster. I will tell you this section looks extremely scary when you first start it. I don't know if you guys looked at it ahead of time or not. Not that I'm expecting you do. Oh, I forgot to ask if you needed any questions from Friday. Yeah.
I can't remember because I did this a while ago, but
Friday.
7B, I think I got a different answer when I plugged it into the equation versus when I took the derivative on the line.
Okay, I'll look at that one after this then. 7B?
Yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, I'm assuming it seemed like it was going pretty well ahead of time. Okay. This section is technically review as well, but it feels really scary when you first look at it because there's a lot of terms you've probably never really run into unless you're in some sort of a business class. And so this section is just called Rates of Change in Other Applications. And the first 2 to 3 pages are all about like business, like costs, revenues. I'm not even going to pretend that I, can explain what a lot of these things are. And I guess the point that you should get from this, though, too, is if you get some sort of a topic on the AP test that's different than something you've run into, you're not going to be asked to do something that you wouldn't know anything about, okay? So like say this first topic here is marginal cost. You're not going to be expected to know what marginal cost is or how to find it on your own, but they would tell you what to do. And so you're very possibly going to get a topic on the free response that's not something we've studied. But if they give you something like that, then they very specifically tell you how to find that information. Like down here. Or I should ask, do you guys know about like cost and revenue and things like that? You probably know profit. That's probably the one thing you know most about, right? So cost is how much it costs the company to make or buy things. Revenue is how much money they sell things for. And then profit would be how much extra money they have after selling something and what they paid for it. So marginal cost is the rate of change of the cost function. Again, like marginal cost is not something I've heard of before. I've never really took many business classes. But if you go into some sort of, business, I don't know enough about business to even know what to tell you what you'd go into. Some of you guys are probably way more interested in that. But they usually have calc classes that are specific to individual topics. Like they've got a physics calc, they've got an engineering calc. I'm sure there's an economics or accounting calc. They usually have calcs that are very specific to what your field you're going into. And I'm sure this is something that's covered in that. And that's why I said that's not something I would have taken because I wasn't going into that. I thought of being an engineer when I went to school. And so I took computer science and engineering classes to see if I enjoyed them, just to see what to do. So I have experience doing the engineering calc. And it's very different than regular calc. So regular calc, it just teaches you the basics of what calculus does. Like engineering calc taught you about how to use derivatives and integrals for like force vectors. So like if you're building some sort of a beam or a bridge or something, you have to know what kind of force vectors are being applied from there to determine where to make it the strongest, whether it would work, and all things like that. Long story there, but like marginal cost, your question is to ask to find marginal cost, and it specifically tells you what to do to find it. And then near the end, it says to find an exact amount to produce one more item. Then it tells you how to use the original cost function, c of x plus 1 minus c of x. So what you guys are going to have to be able to do is just kind of to read the directions or instructions you're given, even though it might be a topic that you know nothing about. There definitely has been free response problems every single year that usually surprises everybody, and like they feel like they don't know what's going on, and it's something like this. 2 years ago, it was like how fast a baked potato cools down, and you know immediately which question everybody hates, because like all sorts of memes come out about it the very next day. 3 years ago, it was about how fast bananas are stocked and restocked on shelves in a grocery store. Like it's always some sort of a unique, weird thing. Like it's supposed to be relatable. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But let's kind of go through this one and just know that these are going to sound horrible because you haven't had to do them before. But the ideas that are being used, you know how to do. So the cost to translate documents into another language is a function depending on the number of pages you have. The cost is given by that equation. Calculate the marginal cost at the production level of 10 pages. So marginal cost is the derivative. I mean, like, marginal cost sounds terrible, but the actual thing is pretty easy to find. So we need to find c prime of x. So c prime of x would be 3 times 0.002, so 0.006, p squared, minus 0.2p, plus 8.75. And then to find the marginal cost of 10 pages, I would just plug 10 in. Now, I'll just pretend like I did the work, and I'll tell you it's $7.35. Oh yeah, I think I forgot to put the chairs down. Now it says, how does this compare to the exact cost to translate 10 pages? Well, the exact cost to translate 10 pages was this. We would take the cost of 11 pages minus the cost of 10 pages. So that's what c of x plus 1 minus c of x meant. You add 1 to the number that's being asked about, and you subtract the one that's being asked about. Now this came out to be 8681. Minus 79.50, which was $7.31. Now the reason they're not exactly the same is because the cost function, maybe I should ask you guys. Does anybody know why they're not the exact same? What's the fault with having a cost function like that?
It's not linear.
Okay, I think what you mean by linear is like you can't have partial numbers. So when you think about pages, it's not like you're going to have 1.37 pages, right? Like the numbers that you're going to plug into this function always have to be whole numbers. In fact, you can't even have negatives or anything. But the way the function is set up is it's continuous. And so sometimes this cost function is an approximation. And it's not going to be exact, but it approximates very closely to correct answers. So the exact cost, where you actually figure it out, sometimes is slightly different. But then that's what actual businesses do. Like they approximate things, they try to predict things. If you guys become an actuary, so actuary is probably the most math heavily based career you could go into, and that's what an actuary does is they predict things for companies, mainly insurance companies. Like you predict what are the chances they're going to get into an accident, what's the chances of when they're going to die. Like honestly, that's the most common one is life insurance, is you predict how much to charge people because you tell the insurance company when you think they're going to die based on different factors. And so that's kind of the difference between estimation and actual things. Okay, I know. That was super long just for the very first example. But I wanted to do that because when I first looked at these notes, it was a lot of information I'd never even remotely seen before, and I kind of felt like you guys would feel the same way. But that's kind of what the AP test is. Here, why don't you guys see if you can kind of do A and B. Try to do A and B on your own. It's pretty much exactly the same as what we just did. It's got marginal cost and it's got the exact cost. Now, even if you don't have a calculator with you or anything, just set it up so that you'd get to the point where you would need to calculate. Oh, that wording, by the way. That wording is like asking you to find the exact cost of 100 headphones when it says producing the 101st set. Are you guys pretty close to being done, if not done? Okay. Yeah. And I don't want you to necessarily think like marginal cost is something that you have to like memorize. It's just you're going to be given topics that you'll be told how to find, and you have to know how to use the formulas you're given. So marginal cost isn't something that's going to be a big deal. I'd be shocked if you even get it on the AP test. But I know you're going to get topics that are different than things we've studied, and that's kind of the idea. Average cost was one of those things that was written down on the first page of the notes. Basically, it's the average cost of 100 headphones is going to be the cost of 100 headphones divided by 100, which I think you might have been able to figure it out without even being told that, but now, does it seem odd to you that this number is bigger than the ones up there? I don't even know if you thought about this topic at all. Yeah.
To get to 6,000, did you get the 52 back into the regular equation?
To get what?
Because you got like 52 on A. Did you just keep the 52 back in like the regular equation to get like the 6,600? Like the
6,600 is putting 100 into the original function.
Oh, you put 100.
Yeah, so the 52 was $52 per set headphones at the 100th headphone.
Oh, so then you keep 101 in for the regular equation too.
Correct. Yep. So basically the way this is set up is it's more expensive to produce less things. Most likely because you have to buy the machines to make them and, the startup cost. Like if I put 0 in place of this function, the answer is going to be 1,500. So even before I make any headphones, it's going to cost $1,500. If I make one headphone, it's going to be $1,550.01. You have to include the cost of the headphones themselves plus the however much cost it like once you get to a certain point, it's going to cost less to make them. So this is why, like the 100th headphone, it was $52.01 to make the 100th headphone, but it was an average of $66 over the first 100 headphones. Like the cost per headphone is going to be higher at the beginning than later. And even if it didn't make sense, like you didn't stop to think about it, like that's okay. Like as long as you can go through the steps to find the correct information, that way even if you don't understand a topic, like you can still find answers to stuff. Do you want me to there's quite a few more problems on like money things. But for me, I don't necessarily want you to focus that much on money things because like calc is all about every topic. Like it's anything that changes, calc deals with. And I didn't necessarily want you to like go bonkers trying to like figure out all the different money parts of this. Like to me, if you find this type of stuff interesting, which lots of people do, well then you'll be going into that anyway. But I don't want to like focus so much on it that I scare off some of you. So if you do want to do more with money ones, I probably don't have enough time to keep doing them, but I have the answer key for you. I've got all the different things for you if you want to look at them, if you're interested in them. Otherwise, I was thinking I would kind of go towards like 8. Example 8 is the next question that's not dealing with revenues and costs and profits. And I don't want to call these more normal problems. I like that they're going to be different things. And this is all about getting you comfortable working with word problems so that when we start doing related rates in the next section, And our goal is to be is to do related rates probably Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then that'll give you Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to work on it. Because we have that Monday off too. I think that's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Is that right? Yeah. That's why they made the Flex Friday this Friday, because a lot of people take it off anyway. Okay, so Gabby's working on a project that watches decline in great white sharks in the Atlantic Ocean. That function gives the number of sharks T years since she began working on the project. So basically, she's been recording the information all these different years, and once you put the information into a regression model, like your calculators even have that built in, where you can look at different regressions and try to find out how closely your data matches something. So she found it matched up 3570 e to the negative 0.2 t. Find the rate of change for the number of sharks in the ocean after 3 years. So those words right there are the key ones to me. What is it telling us to do if we see rate of change? Derivative. If we ever see the words rate of change, change is key for derivative. That means how fast something's changing. Derivative. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to find S prime of t. Neil, can you help me figure out the derivative? It's been a while since we actually did some things.
Yeah. You take the negative 0.2 out from the top and multiply it by the 3570. Is that power rule?
Oh, definitely not power rule. This will actually be part of the answer, but it's not power rule. So, and maybe you meant it correctly or just saying it wrong. But whenever I have e to a variable power,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to have to use the e to the u derivative.
Which is e to the u.
Yeah, so it's e to the u times du. And the derivative of the power is just negative 0.2. So that's why I said it'll be in the answer anyway, but. So you rewrite e to the u and then multiply by the derivative of the exponent. Okay, and then to find the rate of change after 3 years, we would just plug in 3. Negative 391. 0.8515. Deal, choose somebody.
Andrew.
Andrew's the only other person that's answered this hour. Choose somebody else.
Juarez.
Okay, Poirez, what does that answer even mean?
Means that the 3 years after Gabby started your project, the sharks are decreasing at a rate of 391 per year.
Perfect. Perfect. So the original function stood for the number of sharks. So if S, actually when I write S, that seems odd, but so if S represents sharks, your derivative is going to be sharks per what you did the derivative with respect to. Our variable was t, so time. If we did second derivative, what would the second derivative be? Sharks per year, which is, it's kind of like acceleration, but we don't want to talk about that. So it'd be per year squared. Whenever you're doing the derivative, it goes by whatever your variable is. Whatever you're taking with derivative with respect to. Okay, good. Why don't you guys try 9? This has also been a question on the AP test, which is why this topic was here as an example. Viral videos. Why are we getting so many emails today? Fernanda, how do we do it? Okay,
So that'd be 243 to 0.5 times 0.5.
perfect. What was it? 1480.173. Fernanda, who's gonna go after you? So obviously the next question is gonna be, what's the label?
Oh, that's just views per day. Views per day.
Perfect. Views per day. So this is telling you how it's changing from the previous day. So like on the fourth day, however many views you had on the fourth day, you would have 1,480 more views on the fifth day. Do we want to do a table? Sure. Following table of values for number of gallons of water in thousands per hour that are flowing into a retention pond T hours after a severe thunderstorm. So V of T, we're told, is gallons per hour. Obviously, T is hours. Okay. What is the interpretation of V prime of T? Sierra, who's going to answer that one?
Cassie?
Cassie? You got chosen to answer this question. What would be the interpretation of V prime of T? So you're not being asked to find a derivative. You're being asked what would it stand for.
Gallons of water per hour?
Close. So the function that we were given to start with is in gallons per hour. So what would be the derivative of V? What would be the derivative of gallons per hour?
Gallons per hour per...
Mm-hmm. Gallons per hour. Yep. It's gallons per hour or gallons per hour squared. Now this is specifically telling you if the amount of water that's coming, or what is it? Pond? Retention pond. So the amount of water that's going into the retention pond, is it accelerating? Is it decelerating? So is the amount of water speeding up, slowing down? I shouldn't say the amount. Yeah, the amount of water. Not the speed of the water. Okay. Estimate V prime of 2. Explain the meaning and context to the problem. Ooh, Cassie. Apurva. Okay, how come?
Because on the table at, t equals 2, 2 with t equals 1.15.
So 1.15 would represent v of 2. We want to find v prime of 2. Yep.
Um,
Now on a table, we don't have any kind of equations to work with. So how have we traditionally tried to find derivatives using a table?
oh, using like the, y.
Yep.
the-
So you have a bunch of different numbers you could pick to do that with. What would you want to do?
2.5 and 1.5.
Okay, that's probably what I would have done too. That works. So 2.5, if you want me to write v of 2.5, I certainly can, minus v of 1.5. So we would have 1.24 minus 0.93 divided by 1, which would get us 0.31. Okay, Purva, next person.
I don't know.
So Luke, what does gallons per hour squared mean? Like 0.31 gallons per hour squared. If you had to try to explain that to somebody as best you can. Like obviously it's kind of weird, but is the amount of water going into the retention pond coming in faster than before, or is it coming in slower than before? Is it total guess?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. Who should we go with? It wasn't answered for a long time. Kylie, you're hidden behind a chair.
Yeah.
You basically are every day, so I keep not seeing you back there. Could you explain that one?
At the 2 hour mark, the water's coming in 0.3 gallons per hour faster every hour
Then what?
than before.
Than the previous hour. Yep. So at the 2 hour mark, the water is coming in 0.31 gallons per hour faster than the previous hour. Positive numbers would have meant it was coming in faster. Negative numbers would have meant that the water was coming in slower than before. So a negative acceleration just doesn't mean that it's sucking water out. It just means that the water is coming in slower than the previous hour. Oh, look at that. That's what C is. We're going to skip C because that would require us to do a lot of different slope calculations from this table, and we don't have that time. But I think this is the last page, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then why don't I stop there? As you guys are going through the homework, I will very specifically say, if you are running, the money ones are the ones I'm most worried about because it was very heavily money centered in this section. I want to make sure that you guys are comfortable working with problems and derivatives and trying to interpret the units and the labels, because that's what's really important for next section. The units and the labels is a much bigger deal than you probably are expecting it to be. And that's what I'm more focused on. So as you guys are doing the homework, I mean, like, I don't usually cut out stuff from these sections, but what I will say is you are welcome to not do all the money ones. Like, I would still like you to try some of the money questions from the homework, but like when you're submitting it for me looking through it, I am not going to worry if I see that there's a handful of the different money ones that you didn't do, because some of them get extremely specific, talking about revenues, profits, losses, like just a lot of different parts of them. And I don't want you to focus on that so much that you're worried about them. If we do have a money question on our test, it's not going to be something that's, I'm expecting you to memorize something ahead of time. I'll put it that way. I want you to focus on the derivative part and the labeling part of every question. And if you're feeling lost, just do what you can. So I'm saying that in hopes that you can have that done by tomorrow, because we've got about 20 minutes left here. And I want to start the next section tomorrow rather than taking some more time. So I'm hoping I can just help you with questions here for 20 minutes rather than taking up time tomorrow for it.